The thing that's most important to me in an everyday life, like the one thing which I rely on to keep me sane, is having a routine. And that is basically around self-improvement. And it's a list of things which I do to tick off each day. And if I don't do it, it feels like I'm missing something in life. If I don't do just one thing on that list, it feels like my day is incomplete and it kind of nags away at me. And when that list is incomplete in the day, I'm also thinking that I need to tick off things on that list. I think some people would call that autism, but I'm a millennial, so we just call that OCD. And it's something which, once I started doing regularly, is where I noticed an improvement in my trading. I noticed that the habits that I started to create for myself in everyday life, the things which I was doing to improve myself, ended up kind of, as a side effect, improving the person that I was when I was sitting at the charts, when I was trying to take trades out of FOMO, and a part of me would say not to do it, and that was formed from having that routine. But no surprises really. When I started that routine and I started being consistent with my routine, I started becoming a more consistently profitable trader. I started to unwind bad habits. I started to unwind bad trades, particularly the days where you just kind of go off in a spiral of death and take like 5 losses in a row. Those days became few and far between because I started to just focus on doing the right thing out of routine and out of habit. And anything which wasn't that, I kind of just discarded. Once I started doing that, I took it forwards and never really looked back. But everything kind of comes tumbling down in my trading if I don't have that routine in my day-to-day life. It kind of has an effect where if I'm not going to the gym, if I'm not meditating, if I'm not writing to myself in my journal, if I'm not doing a bit of backtesting to keep me active on the charts, it feels like a bit of atrophy in a mental sense. It starts to bring the demons out. It starts to have more of an effect from them, with their voice telling me to just take a chill day, don't go to the gym, have a dessert after you eat, all that kind of stuff. And it's not a really big thing that will send you into a losing spiral. It won't be one major event which will put you on your ass and make you hit a bottom. It will be a slow and steady grind of just doing the wrong thing over and over again and building that habit. And interestingly enough, when I was working in graphic design, one thing that someone said to me which really stuck out was when we used to edit documents, for example, for a corporate company I was working for, you'd have to make the grammar, for example, consistent. Like, for example, after a list of bullet points, put in a full stop. And if you've got several lists of bullet points and some of them have full stops at the end and some of them don't. This one guy said to me, depending on the brand guidelines, it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong, just be consistently right or wrong. So that probably doesn't make much sense to you, but if the brand guidelines were to say, for example, you have to have that full stop at the end of the sentence and you didn't do it, but at least you didn't do it for all of the instances. If you are going to do something, be either consistently right or consistently wrong. And when I thought about that in relation to trading, I thought that was stupid. Why would you do stuff consistently wrong? But if you're tracking your trades and you're journaling, you can track when you're doing things consistently wrong. You can track when you're consistently taking revenge trades. You can track when you're consistently taking FOMO trades. You can track when you're just taking those little gambles just for the sake of trying to get in the move just in case it explodes. Like, all those instances, as long as they're consistent, and if you've got 100 different mistakes in you, then that's hard to fix. But if you've got 3 or 4 consistent mistakes that you're doing over and over again, then it's easier to correct because it's just a habit that you need to change. Shout out to Tom Dante's Demon Finder, which will help you identify what that consistent pattern is that you have. And I'll put a link to that in the description. But if you're focusing on consistency, you're going to be consistent in a number of different ways in your life, right and wrong. I put a post up on X recently, and I said 2 major things that I learned later on than I would have liked. Number 1, it's not about making money, it's about making it and keeping it. And the way to do that is to be consistently making winning trades, right? Sure, but everyone can make winning trades. It's about consistently removing the losses. It's about consistently removing those bad habits and mistakes that you're making. And then that's how you become more consistently profitable, and that's how you grow your equity curve. And then there was number 2. It's not about trying to create a consistent and predictable environment to operate in. It's about being able to adapt to constant change. One of the things which really helped me and propel me into consistency with trading was having that routine, and I got super obsessed with it, as I said in the beginning. When I first created this sort of routine for myself, having things to tick off each day to improve myself 1%, it's that old cliche. 1% by reading every day, 1% by meditating every day, 1% by journaling every day, 1% by backtesting every day, or taking a trade win on the live markets, having a walk, going for a workout, stretching, these kind of things. I had to tick them off. But in my life, I was single. I was living on my own, and it was really easy to stick to that routine. And it was, for me, a good idea to cut people out of my life that weren't serving me in that routine, because I became hyper-focused on improving my trading through this routine and through this kind of culture that I'd given myself, where I had to be strict and consistent with all of my good habits so that I could put myself into a position in life that I wanted to be in. And it sounds really extreme to say that you have to kind of go in this monk mode. You kind of have to remove yourself from people and environments that are taking away your energy and not allowing you to put that into yourself and to consistent routines and consistently doing things which improve your life. So I took that mindset and just applied it here on out for the rest of life. But things change. In other videos, I've mentioned it. I have a fiance and I have a baby, and that is a completely different approach to life now. There is no consistency. There is no predictable environment for me to operate in at my best with trading. When I have laser focus on my trading and I have emotional calm and I have no interference from family members, extended family members and friends and whatnot with drama in their lives, if I remove all of that, I can do very, very well with trading. But it's a boring life if you've got no people in it. And going down this path will lead you that way, because you realize that the extreme work that you need to do in order to be the person that is required to be a profitable trader, the person that you need to be in order to be consistently profitable and scale up, is someone who is extremely emotionally intelligent. And that separates you from a lot of people just by natural default, because you see all of the issues other people have and that they cannot respect boundaries. And that's just something you have to go through, because when you become consistent in your routines with your good habits, you will see that many other people are not. So along the way, I realized that I can't be consistent in an unpredictable environment. I can't be so militant with a routine when there is so much chaos around me. And then it's kind of sunk into me recently that it's not about having to be consistent in a predictable environment and in a calm environment. But if you're learning, if you're refining your edge, it's only going to suit you to put yourself into a place like that. And I don't mean go and dump your girlfriend or anything. If you're in that situation, it's just going to be harder. But if you are single, like I've said in other videos, you have to go all in. So what I'm kind of really starting to internalize now is that where I can be consistent, I can be consistent, but it's about finding the mental calm and the sort of stoicism through that chaos and centering yourself and realizing that you can get lost in it, or you can stick to what's going on in your brain and not let it affect you. And it's something that only comes with having that right training environment to be able to get to that point. For me now, it is all about ensuring that I have complete non-negotiables. And those things are backtesting, meditating, journaling, and having a workout each day. And I can fit that into my day, really. If you don't want to watch Netflix, if you don't want to sit there and watch YouTube, if you don't want to sit there just vegging out on the sofa or going out and getting drunk, you can have time to do these things. But it's way easier to do those bad habits, sit there and watch TV and do nothing. And it's not a fun life. It's comfortable, they say, but there is always a nagging in the back of your brain that there is more to this life. And you know there will be, and that's why you feel depressed. But when you start taking action, when you start doing something which you know is going to improve you 30 days from now, as long as you stay consistent with it, then something changes in you, something changes in your life. And it's not like something just knocks on the door and goes, hey, well done, you're consistent now. And this whole new feeling just kind of slaps you and puts you into a new reality. It's the same as when you get the opposite, when you start doing the bad habits. You don't immediately feel super depressed, but a long enough time frame where you're doing it consistently, something in the back of your brain will say, hey, like, I'm not feeling too good about life. And the opposite side of it is what we want, and that's the good habits and the consistency. And in 30 days of doing one thing over and over again, which you know is going to improve you, you'll look back at where you were 30 days before and then see the progress, but you won't see that on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about consistency.